Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And we're here today to talk about preparing for SelectUSA, which is, I guess we're just about 6 or 7 weeks away. And we're joined by great friend Mark Sullivan from the Massachusetts Office of International Trade and Investment, better known as MOIT. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks very much for the invitation.
It's great to have you. And so our real goal today, Mark, if we can, is obviously we're talking to companies who either are already committed to going to SelectUSA or are thinking about it. And I'm sure they want to know about Massachusetts and all of the opportunities in Massachusetts. But would you mind just taking a minute or two and talking about what MOIT does to help international companies come into the strong ecosystem in Massachusetts?
Sure. So MOIT is the designated state international agency. We also run the STEP program, and we help mass companies go international, if it will. But our primary focus is supporting exports and recruitment of foreign direct investment. The MOIT office, there's myself and my colleague, Melissa, and we're somewhat of a welcome wagon now, because the way Massachusetts does it is years ago, MOIT had a very large staff. Now it's a small staff, but I have connections to what we call the Mass teams. And the Mass teams consist of the Mass Office of Business Development. These are the people that work with domestic and international companies about locating in Massachusetts, financial incentives, that type of thing. And then we have our quasi-agencies, which consist of, the quasi-agency is part public, part private. The board is chaired by my boss, Secretary Yvonne Howe, and they're focused, they're like the industry experts to say, what does Massachusetts need to do to stay number one in life science, or one of the tops in life science, renewable energy, technology, and the other areas, clusters of excellence that we're trying to develop. And a third entity that is very much a part of it is Mass Econ. And Mass Econ, think of it as the real estate arm. You want to locate something in Massachusetts. There are private companies that do this, but they work with the state agencies to say, gee, we have a company coming from this country. They need 100 acres, and they want it to be in this area in Massachusetts. And they're the ones that we would be able to engage the company. So we're pretty proud of ourselves is that we'll have a call with the company and say, let's get on board. I'll bring in the industry experts. I'll bring the financial people. I'll bring Mass Econ, and we'll just have a conversation. And generally, we find within the first 5 or 10 minutes, you almost know, yes, we should continue to work together, and you should pursue something in Massachusetts, or no, Massachusetts doesn't make a lot of sense for you. The other thing we have here, and a number of states are doing this now, are the innovation centers. And the innovation centers are really a bonus, especially for small businesses, because you can come to an innovation center in Massachusetts or other states, and you rent a desk. And it gives you the opportunity to hit the ground running, to engage with the ecosystem in that state. And you can know fairly quickly, yes, it makes a lot of sense for me to be here, or no, I should pursue something else. And you haven't invested a lot of time and effort and energy. So that's kind of the focus now for MOIT. The other thing that MOIT does, not a lot, but somewhat, is we'll also be the initial vetter. So you're calling us from overseas, and I'm able to get on the line with you and say, okay, what is it you're looking to do? And I can tell you, yes, that's within our wheelhouse. You really want to look at what we're doing. Or if it's some type of industry that we don't do a lot of, I can say, okay, like coal mining, just for example, you don't really want to come to Massachusetts because we just don't do it. So that's kind of what MOIT's day-to-day, day in, day out focus on foreign direct investment is.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. So obviously SelectUSA is a massive event. Some have called it the World Cup of foreign direct investment in the United States. But why is it that you find it important to participate?
I joined MOIT in 2016, and we've gone every year, and we did the virtual during the pandemic. And, I can see that World Cup, except it's an annual event, not every 4 years. But it's the one opportunity that if I'm an international company and I'm considering, or an internet or a country, and you're trying to advise your companies where they should look to go in the US, you get it all over a 3 or 4 day week. You can visit all the states. We're pretty much all there. There's also great conferences, speakers, and workshops and other events. And those are terrific because it kind of gives you an idea of where's the US heading, federal government, what's the near key criteria. And then you're able to, visit each of the states. And just, you can come by the Massachusetts booth, and we don't have to talk about locating in Massachusetts. We can just talk about, what are our strengths? What is it you're looking for? And, obviously, I want everyone to come to Massachusetts. Well, that's not going to happen, and I'm certainly happy to talk to people about, if I think another state offers them more of an advantage, that's okay too. The kind of like the rising tide lifts all boats, and I think pretty much all the states that go there are doing that. Because at the end of the day, companies have a lot of choices, but generally what the different states that are there, the competition part of it, if something really makes sense, whether it's financial incentives, whether it's industry, leadership, networking, each state kind of rises to the occasion.
Yeah. The choices become somewhat obvious as you drill down, I suppose. So, and then the kind of the last topic area, Mark, thinking of the companies coming, some will have maybe already have customers in the US and have maybe even some operations. Others, this may be their first trip to the US. Going to a conference like SelectUSA and in even having time in the US maybe to travel around a bit, are there some recommendations that you would have for companies that are coming, how to get the most out of this experience, how to get the most out of the trip?
Yeah, it's interesting. This year we're going back to the Gaylord, and I think if I'm an international company and I'm coming here, the Gaylord's a wonderful place to have SelectUSA because you pretty much have a captive audience. It's a wonderful venue, it's a wonderful location, but you don't get the distractions because, it can take time to get into the city. So as far as wanting to find the people that you want to meet with, you're going to find them because they're there. All the states, or pretty much all the states, have a booth. I would certainly recommend to companies is do your homework ahead of time. Again, going back to coal mining, which nothing against, terrific industry, but knowing that if I'm into coal mining, I'm not really going to go to Massachusetts. Okay. So make sure that you get the best bang for the buck. Look at the programs. What are the topics? Who are the speakers? Various governors come in. And that's a key item. For instance, Massachusetts, we have a new governor, Governor Maura Healey. In her inaugural address, she was very strong in her wording about she wants Massachusetts to be a global leader in renewable energy and climate change. So if I'm an international company and I'm doing climate change, renewable energy, that should really jump out at me because that's where funding is going to be. That's where the economy in that state is going to be kind of turned on to say, what do we need to do to become a leader? Because the governor's, again, it's the inaugural address. She's very much pursuing it. So that's what I mean by doing the homework ahead of time. What are states doing with what you want to do? I'd look for who do you think are going to be your potential customers and locating perhaps there, suppliers, or frankly, competitors. Sometimes, people will come to the booth and one of their first questions is, tell me about financial incentives. And the thing is, every state has financial incentives. Every state can tailor incentives depending on what the match is. Most states, the incentives increase, and the formula is how many jobs and how much capital are you investing. And you hit those two, every state can give you the incentives. But just remember, if you're a company, the state that offers you the best incentives may not be the best state for your company. Is the workforce there? Massachusetts, if you went to Governor Baker the former governor, Governor Healy, and they had $1 left, they're going to invest it in workforce, because that's what really drives, in my opinion, for a company, that's where you should be looking to go. Because if you don't have the workforce, nothing, you don't have anything else to build your company on. So that's kind of my word of advice would be, do your homework ahead of time, find out what makes sense to you from an industry standpoint, from a company standpoint, and then come and talk to me about financial incentives, that kind of thing.
I would imagine too, and I love the advice you gave on the preparation, and most of the companies are coming as a part of a delegation, whether it's led by somebody from U.S. Commercial Services or led by somebody from their home country. And I would imagine you'd also advise them to, as part of their preparation, to really brainstorm with those individuals about potential connections or pre-connections or whatnot, so that they're when I always think of how do you make the room smaller, right? You're going to have 3,000 or 4,000 people there. How do you find the 50 that you need to really interact with? And I would imagine the delegation leaders could offer some good advice in that regard as well.
They do. The Commerce Department is terrific. So I'll know ahead of time. Throughout the year, I'll get emails from the various consulates, embassies, and the commercial officers, Commerce Department saying, Mark, I talked with XYZ company. They're interested in doing this, because they're very familiar with what states are kind of focused on as well. And they would like to know about, what does Massachusetts have? And on those, what I like about those is they make the introduction, and then I'm able to just follow up on the email with the person, thanks, Connor, for making the introduction, whoever the person is, let's have a quick conversation, 5 minutes. And it really helps the company, because then they can either, check Massachusetts, I've got to look at this company, state, or cross us out because it doesn't make any sense for them to do it. So I find the Commerce Department is kind of like, almost like Massachusetts ambassadors. And I know they work for all the states, so it's not just a Massachusetts, but they're able to kind of, if I can tell them the story that we're working on, that's why it's always interesting to have them come by the booth and say, okay, I'm located in certain country. What is Massachusetts really going to focus on in the next couple of years, so that they have that, information. So when they're on the streets, literally in their host country, they're able to say, oh, I've talked to Massachusetts, they're doing that, or whatever state that they've talked to.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Well, Mark, this has been fantastic. I cannot wait to see you in a few weeks, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. I know that what we're going to do too is we'll put your contact information in the Moiety website in the description below. So, and again, we encourage folks listening, those interested in learning more about Massachusetts, please reach out to Mark and make sure you stop by the Massachusetts booth at SelectUSA.
Please do. Thanks very much, Bill.
Thanks so much, Mark. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Okay.